I'm back. I know it's been quite a while since the last time I filmed, and what I kind of want to theme this video around is new starts, new beginnings. I know it's not January anymore. I know many of you have possibly already made your New Year's resolutions or are already getting started on them. Before I get into that, I just want to thank those of you who have commented on previous videos or just added what your thoughts are. I really do appreciate them. I've read them, and if there's anything you want to add or ask or say or suggest, maybe something you would like to learn about, I'll definitely look into it for you. So I think for me and the season of the life that I'm in right now is definitely a season of transitioning, if that makes sense. It's been challenging for me, I'm not going to lie, because I think my whole life I have had an overarching goal that has provided the foundation for my purpose and kind of what I do on the daily or week to week. So, obviously, school, high school, that takes a lot of the chunk of our time. And then for me, I went straight from high school into university, loved it. It was definitely the core purpose of why I was doing what I was doing. It was my priority. And then from undergrad, I knew I straight away wanted to go into psychology honors. I worked really hard to do that and to get there. And so I finished that last year. And this year was very much up in the air for me. And I was playing around with many ideas in terms of working, completing my master's, or traveling. And I have decided to pick the traveling option. And if any of you are interested in kind of like decisions and how we do a process of decision making that works for us, definitely leave a comment down below, because there's an amazing book that I read all about decision making, and I will use those tips for the rest of my life on making decisions and how to feel okay in them, how to feel like a decision doesn't necessarily have to be right. It just needs to be the one that you choose and the one that you go with and the one that in the end you'll make the best of no matter what. So in line with transition periods or in line with change in general, I really think that it's a good segue into the concept of paradigms. Paradigms are so important for your mindset because they are an overarching view that you'll carry into anything that happens to you. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about now is based off of the book Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor. I have definitely seen this advertised on TikTok. And it's all about change because, let's be real, it's really difficult to change. And that's why a lot of people don't, or they change for a little bit and then they go back to acting the way that they always did, because they are targeting surface level actions or thoughts, not really diving into anything deeper, i.e. your paradigms. And just a bit about Bob Proctor. He runs the Proctor Gallagher Institute with his partner, and he helps people get in touch with themselves. So I always like to kind of mention what an author does, because I think it's really interesting just to see, do they have another job? What is it? And how does it relate to this book in question? A little bit of an explanation on paradigms. Essentially, it's like viewing the world through a certain pair of glasses. So let's say, for example, that you wear glasses that have a red tint to them. If you wear those glasses wherever you go, it's going to change the color of what you see. Green might not be green when you wear those red glasses. It might change it. And just because you're wearing those glasses, it doesn't mean that that color is not your reality. So what I'm trying to get at here is that when you wear these glasses, it changes the way you see things and you take that as your reality. And that's very much like what paradigms are. They are glasses that you put on that affect everything you see. So if your paradigm is a certain way, it affects what you experience. And when you change the way that you look at something, what you look at changes. And we can jump into this with an example. If you have a positive paradigm of, I learn from everything that happens to me. When you have a situation that might be negative, let's say, for example, you're in a car accident and your car's ruined and maybe you're slightly injured. When you have the paradigm of, I learn from everything that happens to me, you have those glasses on, and even though from the outside that might be an awful situation, and it's okay to admit that, but you do turn around and you look at it and say, what could I have learned from this? On the other hand, if you have a paradigm of the world is out to get me, then everything that happens to you will feel like a personal attack because you have those glasses on, because you see everything in that light. And that really is the strength of paradigms. Bob Proctor says, if you put your mind to something, you can achieve it. We can achieve only what we think we are capable of. And I think at first it possibly sounds a bit crazy that we can just achieve whatever as long as we think we can do it. I know it sounds super idealistic, but just think of people who have achieved unimaginable things. And I don't know why this is the example that comes to mind, but I'm just going to share it because maybe it will resonate with somebody. But if you've ever watched Survivor, they go out to an island and they split up into tribes. Often the challenges that they have to do are so grueling. Now bear in mind, these people are away from loved ones. They do not have many of the comforts that we do day to day, and they don't really eat a whole lot of food. So they're tired, they're probably emotionally spent, and they're hungry, and then they do these really, really grueling challenges. And especially when it gets to, let's say, top 3, I mean, sometimes they're there for 6 hours standing on one stump with one foot, or whatever the case may be. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I definitely recommend that you check out one of those challenges because it's insane. But a lot of the people that do enter are normal people. They have a normal job as a teacher or an accountant. They're not some kind of person like Bear Grylls, and yet they push themselves and they are able to achieve these things that may seem outlandish for the person watching. So that's what I'm trying to get across in terms of, if you put your mind to something, you can achieve it. And with this, the author shares a quote: what would it take to build a rocket that would carry a person to the moon and then bring him back safely to Earth? Von Braun answered, the will to do it. So I think he just shares that because sending a man to the moon at one point in time was crazy. I think people probably were like, that would never happen, very unlikely, how could they do it? And yet it did, and now we can easily wrap our heads around it. At one point, people couldn't think about it. It was one person's idea to send somebody to the moon, one person's will to send somebody to the moon, and then people obviously came in and helped and made that happen. But at the end of the day, I do think that it's realistic to say that it started with the will to do it. Kind of spoken about the importance of the belief and the will to do something. Let's link that to paradigms and possibly changing your paradigm. So your paradigm is very much linked to the beliefs that you have. So a paradigm is essentially a web of beliefs, if you can put it that way. Our belief system is based on our evaluation of something. So if you can imagine a map, we have an evaluation of something, it becomes a belief, it becomes a belief system, and then it becomes a paradigm. And if we re-evaluate a situation enough, our belief about that situation will change, which will hopefully impact our system of beliefs and then our paradigms. Let's dive into relationships about people. Let's say somebody's looking for a life partner, but they have a paradigm of, I'll borrow this from what we used before, of everyone's out to get me. Maybe that belief was put there because they had a bad experience. And when they evaluated that experience, they felt that they were betrayed, possibly rightly so. But they evaluated that experience so much that it became a belief, and then a belief system, and then a paradigm. And so the best way to get out of that is to go and meet somebody else and take that risk to possibly have a different experience, that you can reevaluate it, go into it with an open mind. I know it's difficult, but the best way to change something is to challenge it. Give evidence of a different way of believing. Even a more simple one, if you have this paradigm that you can't swim, you're going to avoid water. The best way to challenge that would be to learn to swim, to go into the water, to create experiences or situations that are positive, because then you'll reevaluate those and you'll form new beliefs, new belief systems, and new paradigms based off of true, real experience. In line with experiences and thoughts, more specifically, the thoughts that we attach to certain experiences, I want to share a quote that the author put in this book. Nothing is bad or good, right or wrong, except our thinking makes it so. Everything just is. Our thinking determines whether it's good or bad. And again, I've studied psychology, so I really do know that mental health issues are not just a matter of you can click your fingers and everything works out and you don't struggle with certain thinking patterns. But I do think that there's a lot of power in that statement. I do think there's a lot you can learn from that quote. Because at the end of the day, we decide if something is negative or positive. Even something as catastrophic as a car accident, as I spoke of earlier, it's okay to go through that trauma and be sad and be scared and all of the above. But you can also decide that there's something positive to be gained, because at the end of the day, that's in your hands. It's in your hands whether or not you title something as positive, negative, or you don't title it at all. You leave it as is. Why not let things happen? You don't have to apply a good or bad label straight away. I think that it's even a helpful thing to allow something to happen, to allow space for that thing just to be, just to step back. And we don't live in fairyland. Not everything's happy and perfect all the time. But give yourself space to see, how can I apply a paradigm to this that will allow me to grow, that will allow me to achieve what I want to achieve, that will allow me to get where I want to get. I'd just like to share some paradigms that I think are really useful for anybody to have and adopt. One of them is the paradigm of always learning. And a quote that the author shared that really fits in well with this is, there's no such thing as a learned person. You're either learning or you're not. And I really like that, because I truly agree that there's no end point to the amount that you can learn. You just continue doing it. And in fact, the more you learn about something in some area of your life, the more you realize that there's so much more to be found out. There's so much more than what you first thought of. There's always a way that you can improve. And that might seem slightly negative at first, but in fact, it's a positive thing. There's always more you can grow, no matter how much you get used to something, or no matter how much you think you're an expert, there may be another area or another perspective you can take on that thing and improve. And I think that's what makes us human. That's the gift we were given of time and being allowed to grow and use that time. With this, develop an awareness of your infinite potential. That is the beginning of greater good in any aspect of your life. And in fact, I have this, let me see if I can get it, on my watch. I have your potential. You probably can't see that. You can see the words. I promise you it says this. Your potential is endless. And I think that's so powerful. And it's something that I obviously like to be reminded of constantly is that you could quit your job right now. You could drop out whatever you're doing and start something new. You could. You could fly somewhere new and start a new life. Your potential is endless. You could learn something. You could start a new trade, whatever it is, start a new business. You have it all that you need at the will to do it. This fits in with having a paradigm of seeing the good or trying to find the good in situations. But when I tell you this quote, it's one of those things I'll remember for the rest of my life. Harvest the good. There's good in everything. The more you look for, the more you'll find. So again, if you have those glasses of, there's something positive in this, I just need to look for it, you'd be surprised how that changes your life, how you're able to find the good if you're wearing glasses that look for the good. Because if you're wearing glasses that look for the bad, they're going to stand out. They're going to be highlighted to you. Another one that I kind of want to end on, just because I think it's important for everybody, especially going into a new year. And because we are not solitary beings, we are always surrounded by people and we have relationships of different kinds. I think it's important to be reminded of this. Respect yourself enough to walk away from anything that no longer serves you, helps you grow, or makes you happy. And that's not to say that you need to delete people from your lives or quit your job after one bad day or one bad experience, but really always assess that, is this person, thing, or situation helping me in some way? Do I gain something from this? And be ruthless about it. I mean, at the end of the day, respect yourself more than anybody else. Put yourself first. There's nothing selfish about that in the slightest. There are any of you who are journalists, I do have some journal prompts that you might enjoy. The first one is, do you think you can change your paradigm? And the second one is, do you agree that changing your paradigm will change your behavior? Just something to think about. Thank you so much for watching this. Again, please leave any questions or comments or other concepts or books you might like me to look at. And as I mentioned in the beginning, if you would like to talk about decision processes, I'm happy to do that.